Hey guys, it's Universe here and I'm back in another video, and today guys, I'm back once again for another review video. And today guys, I'm going to be doing a review that I never anticipated on doing before, but I figured since this is something I never was able to react to, I just decided I would review it anyways. But today guys, I'm going to be doing a full-length review on the analog horror trilogy series, The Cat in the Hat, created by Kris Archives. Now, recently, guys, if you've been seeing on YouTube, there's been this big trend on YouTube lately for the last, I think 3 weeks or so, of the Cat in the Hat analog horror, and a bunch of people on YouTube have been reacting to this one particular one created by Kris Archives, who, by the way, guys, in case you don't know who he is, he's actually another analog horror creator like Foxymations and the Walton Files, and I'll tell you right now, after I saw this thing going about, I first saw Fusion Z Gamer react to this video, like his first episode of the Cat in the Hat analog horror series, and I decided to check out more of Kris Archives videos, and oh my god, they are actually freaking terrifying and disturbing as hell. But that's what makes them so good though. Like, I find his videos a lot scarier than, again, than Foxymations and the Walton Files. But aside from that, he recently finished the Cat in the Hat analog horror series with the final episode about 2 days ago, actually, which reluctantly enough, or crazy enough, was actually on the same exact day of Jeffy's 22nd birthday, which is pretty crazy, to be honest. So, and I figured that since this is something I really would have wanted to react to if I was still on YouTube, but since I never had the chance, I figured I'd give my full thoughts about it, because this was honestly one of the best analog horror series I've actually seen in a long time, probably ever since Foxymation's Fairy Tale analog horror series. So today, guys, I'll be giving my full review on all 3 episodes and tell you guys what I think about them and so on from there. But let's get started. Here is my review on Kris Archives' The Cat in the Hat analog horror series. So the first episode of this series starts off with a little girl named Emily, whose parents are going to be going out for 2 nights, and they tell her that there's a babysitter named Sarah who is coming to see her in any minute right now. So they leave Emily by herself, and while she waits for the babysitter to arrive. Now, I'm going to say right now, I really do like the human design for that Kris Archives did for his analog horror series, because I do like how they have that sort of horror anime vibe to them. It sort of reminds me of the unofficial designs of the human characters from Five Nights at Treasure Island created by Anart in 1996. It definitely gives me that vibe, honestly, which is honestly pretty cool. But anyways, as Emily waits for the babysitter, she gets a knock at her door, where it turns out to be not Sarah, but instead the Cat in the Hat, who suspiciously says that apparently he knows about Sarah and that she had a little accident and she's not going to be able to make it, and that he's here to make sure that she's not going to be lonely and to have fun with him. So at first, things do seem to go pretty docile and innocent. He pulls a rabbit out of his hat and he transforms the whole house into a pink background, pretty much, just to make Emily feel more comfortable. And then they decide to play an innocent game of hide and seek. At first, for the first 2 rounds, things seem to go pretty well. I mean, the cat may look sort of creepy, but not entirely creepy. But then by the 3rd time he finds her, that's when things start to get a little bit more suspicious, where he kind of shows a more creepier vibe to his character.
This isn't fun if you don't hide properly, Emily.
And then they do play a game of Simon Says, which again goes smoothly enough, but after the cat ends up losing the game, he then says that, "Oh, I guess you win this round, little mouse," which is a little suspicious, to be honest, right now. And we are just getting started right now, because this is where it really begins to happen. So then he offers her another game where they have to smash some piñatas, and right off the bat, the piñatas already look pretty suspicious, because how about this? I bet you guys $1, or actually no, $100, that those are actually her parents stuffed up in piñata wrapping. Yeah, we all should have seen this coming a mile away.
You're horrible. You're an irredeemable monster.
So during this section right here, Emily, of course, is traumatized by the death of her parents and tells the cat to get out of her house, which obviously angers him, and then he begins to hunt her down. But as she begins to run away from the cat, the whole house seems to be very different, because as we know, he transformed the house into like this own like dimension or something. So it also is worth mentioning, this might be too early to say, but it seems that the Cat in the Hat seems to be sort of like an outerversal or like supernatural being that can like reshape reality, even just with like the snap of his fingers, like he's freaking Thanos or something. Because he basically was able, of course, to like reshape the house into like a new image for him, and now she's basically like trapped in like this infinite like halls area, sort of like the back rooms, to be honest. So Emily does get hunted down by the cat, and she eventually runs into a room, finds a phone, and attempts to call 911. And as of now, it seems that the police are answering her, although I find it a little suspicious how the police told her, like, "What's your problem, princess?" Which, what kind of an officer would tell a little kid that if they're calling for help? But she's about to like give the police her address. The phone then turns into a toy, which means that the cat must have then used his powers to turn it into a fake phone. I do think a few people were probably thinking that he was actually answering the phone, like the cat was actually just trying to manipulate her. But I do think that this was a real phone, but he used his powers to transform it into a fake phone, pretty much. And then he elects to play a game of rock, paper, scissors. For the first 2 rounds, it seems that they both tied, but the 3rd round, Emily unfortunately chooses paper, and the cat chooses scissors. And then the cat does... Yeah, I'm not exactly too sure what he did, but I don't really want to find out. So it does seem that after that, Emily is still alive, and then the cat decides that he's going to let her go and tells her to jump and lift up her hands and she'll be with her parents again. Almost like as if she's going to the afterlife or something, or an exit to finally see her parents. But after when the screen fades to black, I think it's pretty obvious of what happens to Emily next. Then cutting to the second part called The Cat in the Hat Analog Horror Trick, we then are shown to a news reporter who's standing outside of Emily and her parents' house, who basically talks about how the police found the bodies of both her parents and Emily in their home. Like, Emily was found to have fallen from the 2nd-story window of her home, and her parents were found dead in their house. And to make matters even more worse, the body of the babysitter, Sarah, who was supposed to come watch Emily, was actually just discovered a few blocks away from their house. And as if things couldn't get any worse again, it's also been reported that there's been multiple disappearances and murders of kids and parents across the entire country, seeming to show that perhaps Emily might not have been the only victim or the first victim from the cat, and that he's been doing this for a long time now, which is pretty chilling, to be honest. And then we are shown to the next victims, a kid named Ethan Myers and his mom. So his mom is telling him that it's time to go to bed, and as he asks her to check under the bed for monsters, she does so, but then we briefly hear her scream and then something like a blood-curdling sound. Also, really quick, another interesting detail about this is that Ethan's last name, Myers, is, funny enough, that's actually the last name of the actor who played the Cat in the Hat in the 2003 movie, Mike Myers. So I don't know if Kris Archives intentionally did that with naming the kid Ethan Myers as a little Easter egg to the Cat in the Hat 2003 movie, but if so, that is pretty interesting. So the cat then reveals himself to Ethan and manipulates him to saying that his mom is sleeping under his bed and that she gave him permission to play with him for now since he doesn't want to go to bed. So then the game goes on. They play a game of red light, green light, which seems to get creepier and creepier as the cat begins to progress forward or closer, and then he wins, and Ethan decides for them to play a game of sleeping lions, which I feel like I've heard about this game, but even then the cat doesn't even know what it is actually.
I close my eyes and you have to make me move, either by making me laugh and stuff like that.
What a strange game. All right, let's try.
I'll get it, Gary. Hello, SpongeBob's house. SpongeBob speaking. Hello? Wrong number.
Not even a few seconds as they're about to start playing the game, Ethan then notices his mom actually still alive and barely even walking into the room and telling Ethan to run while he still can. Of course, the cat is triggered by this and then begins to progress his next step further, where he chains up Ethan and then chains up his mom and is about to brutally murder her or brutally do something bad to her. And this is where we are introduced to this cat's version of his two companions, Thing 1 and Thing 2, who are just as creepy and more twisted as the cat. And as this part of his so-called show, he has them end up devouring Ethan's mom, pretty much. And he also does break the fourth wall by asking the audience if they should just tone down the gore a little bit, which I guess they kind of did because we see too much blood. I mean, maybe just like one bite mark from one of the things eating his mom, but that was pretty much about it. And also, when they do appear, they do actually make the sounds of the frettles. There's another little detail right there. And speaking of the frettles, we're going to get to something very interesting in a second. So once again, just like what Emily called the cat in the last part, Ethan calls the cat a monster, which seems to definitely trigger the cat's instincts of showing his true colors, while he then begins to hunt down Ethan throughout the house. And just like with Emily, he's in like the same exact like scenery as Emily, where he was in like a bunch of pink hallways and then like a back room style hallways area, and is being hunted down in the dark. He hides in a wardrobe, but unfortunately the cat is already there, and he's about to kill him. And as he begins to run, this strange ghost figure opens another door to a white like aura, like what happened with Emily, and tells Ethan to run and get out of there. So then the cat then is saying that it didn't know he wanted to play again, and then we see more of these ghosts, where we actually turns out he then says, "Sorry, but I don't have time for vengeful ghosts." Vengeful ghosts. Where have I seen something like this before? So as the spirits of the cat's past victims begin to show up, the cat freaks out because he says that this is actually his reality and he's the god here and they shouldn't be here. And then one of the ghost children then tells him that he's nothing, and that the only reason he was able to do this is because she was letting him. And that now that God is furious and the devil has a special place for him, where then they end up setting the cat to hell, where he then is forced to burn eternally for his sins. Or, so we thought. So we do see a news article about how Ethan managed to get out of the house, but his mom unfortunately was not so lucky. And then as the news article zooms in more, we see the cat's deformed face, and then he says,
"Oh, what a horrible happy ending that would have been, wouldn't you say?"
Yeah, bet we didn't see that coming now, did we? Now, before we move on to the third part, so apparently, again, the ghost children said that the only reason he kept doing this was because she was letting him. So the ghost child does say this, as stated, "No, you are nothing. She used to think you were hilarious, but not anymore. The only reason you were able to keep doing this is because she was letting you." So it seems that even though the cat is this very powerful, supernatural being, he's a god of his own reality, it seems that there's some kind of another, malevolent force that's actually, seem to have more dominion over the cat and making him do all these, sadistic acts, pretty much. So that is very mysterious, which, by the way, another spoiler, we do not actually find out who this is, by the way, even though I haven't even got to my review on part 3 right now, which we're going to do right now anyways. So part 3 opens up where we're then introduced to the perspectives of our final characters, Sally and Conrad, which, yes, they're the same exact kids that we've seen in the 2003 Cat in the Hat movie, which that means that this episode is meant to basically be based off of the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat movie. So as of for right now, the video begins to play out similar to how it did in the movie. Sally and Conrad's mom is going to work, tells them to be good, and then Mrs. Kwan is sleeping to babysit them while they're looking out their window. They hear a noise upstairs. Conrad plays a joke on Sally, and then they first meet the cat, and then he once again introduces himself to the kids as he would in the movie. And then this is when things immediately begin to change, where Conrad then tells the cat that their babysitter, Mrs. Kwan, is downstairs sleeping, and asks him if he maybe wants to play a little prank on her. And the cat immediately right off the bat introduces his true colors, where he puts a pump to her and blows her up, and blood just goes absolutely everywhere. Of course, Sally and Conrad, they freak out, and the cat then tries to get Thing 1 and Thing 2 again, who look a bit more innocent, to try and clean up the mess, but they do something, which I don't know what it was, but it was after he said, "Fools, must I have to do everything myself?" before then cleaning the house with a snap of his finger. So then everything goes back to normal, but of course the kids are not really too fazed by this, because he literally just murdered their babysitter. As it's about to continue to do something else, they hear another knock at the door, and it's the neighbor Larry. You know, the bum from the movie who acts as like the main antagonist, who wants to send Conrad to military school and marry his and Sally's mom. That guy. And right off the bat, he already looks like fucking William Afton with that purple suit, which is pretty damn sus. So he claims that he heard the kids screaming when he was walking down the sidewalk outside, and he thinks that they're already up to no trouble, and declares that he's going to call their mom and send them to military school. And just like in the movie, he catches a whiff of the cat's scent because he has a cat allergy. He then turns around, and the cat is literally just standing right over him, 7 feet tall, a little bit higher than Larry, actually, and just ends up devouring Larry right in front of the kids.
That'd be me.
Was that the bite of 87?
Even for the fact how Larry is a pretty big jerk to the kids, they're still horrified by this, and they too begin calling the cat a monster and start freaking out. The cat, of course, is pretty upset about this, how he gave him entertainment and got rid of that meat sack for them, and this is how they're going to repay him. He then begins to go crazy, but he also says, like, no, this can't be happening, not again, which is an interesting detail, which I will get to when I'm done with this section of the review. So that's when he turns the house into like his own like dimension again, and he starts hunting down the kids. Now during when it shows like different like camera perspectives of parts in the house, I think what I've noticed is that it shows like rooms in the house that have windows, but then they like soon immediately like disappear. Like there's one that shows a window in the room where Conrad and Sally were sitting at the beginning, and also I think a room in the kitchen or the dining area, which we do kind of see like disappear, but it is hard to see because it's very dark. So as the kids are like walking around trying to like find a way out or something, they then hear something like a TV playing in their room, then go investigate it, and it's playing like this very old cartoon. Which, by the way, I did actually look it up a little while ago before I started this review, and this cartoon that plays is like an old like 1930s cartoon called The Cobweb Hotel, where it's about like these two flies that like get manipulated by this spider who runs this hotel that acts as like a facade for flies to try and like lure her prey in, pretty much. So that's a little interesting detail right there. So they're in this room like staying together as they're watching the cartoon. Sally then tells Conrad she needs to go to the bathroom, which doesn't feel good, and Conrad ends up going with her. But after some time, Conrad starts calling out to her sister to find out where she is. He enters a room and sees her, and she begs that they just want to leave. But as they're about to try and leave, from behind them, the cat enters the room in a very like menacing way, kind of like the pumpkin rabbit from the Mysterious House video by the Walton Files. And then off screen, as another cartoon is showing, we can hear in the background Sally getting devoured and killed by the cat, as we also would soon hear Conrad running back into the room terrified. And as he's about to like walk away from the TV and explore a bit of the living room, he runs into the cat again, but more horribly deformed, and he throws like a lighter or something flammable at the cat in an attempt to kill him. But unfortunately, this does not work, as it was shown like in the last episode, where the cat manipulated us into thinking that he actually died by fire, but it wasn't. And he mocks Conrad by saying that it's a very cliche way to try and kill him, and he expected it to be something far more original. Which again is another fourth wall break if you think about it, because there's been like a lot of like horror characters in like games, or even analog horrors from other creators where they die from fire, like Springtrap from FNAF getting killed by fire, the Big Bad Wolf from Foxymation's series getting killed by fire, and even the Pumpkin Rabbit dying from the fire when his book caught fire, which basically when they burned the book, it basically caused like the spirits of the kids of their victims to kill him pretty much. But still, fire basically defeated him, and so now it seems we finally found an entity in analog horror that cannot be killed by fire. So the cat then, like, I guess rips his head or his mask off and actually reveals like his true form pretty much, like as if he's some kind of alien, like bro is like freaking Pennywise or something. I mean, it would make sense because he's like a reality-shaping entity, and then he ends up killing Conrad. We then see images of Conrad and Sally where their hair gets taken off, where it then transitions to the final ending scene where their mom comes home and then comes to find Thing 1 and Thing 2 wearing their faces. And after that, it just ends right there. No final scene with the mom getting killed, just like a final freeze frame right there to kind of indicate what happened to her. So yeah, that's pretty much the whole story of this like series. And as I was trying to say before, so when the cat said like this can't be happening when he was transforming, it seemed like maybe he's sort of like, maybe again like this force that we kind of like maybe learned briefly about in the second part mentioned by the ghost kids is like controlling him again and making him into like this evil like demonic creature of some kind pretty much, and making him go all crazy. Which, I don't know, like, there honestly, it does feel to be, like, some questions that were not really answered, but in the third part, there was, like, a bunch of, like, codes, like, of, like, ones and zeros that flash on screen briefly, which people have decoded to reveal, like, this weird message, which I'm actually not even going to bother telling because I've already forgotten about it right now, but it reveals, like, some sort of, like, a secret or, like, weird code that is sort of, like a poem, like a creepy poem, pretty much, which... If you guys do know what that's about, if you happen to like see any decoding videos on it, let me know down in the comments below of what you guys think it would mean. But yeah, honestly, as a whole, this analog horror series by Kris Archives was definitely pretty damn disturbing and terrifying. I mean, I've seen this other ones like his Sonic.exe analog horror series and his Jeff the Killer one as well, which... Honestly, this got... When I even did first watch the Cat in the Hat analog horror series with the first episode, I was already disturbed, like, from the very start when I first watched it, but I'm kind of used to it now, but I do find that this guy is much more scary with analog horror compared to, like, unknowingly Foxymations and even the Walton Files, to be honest, which... Literally, it's insane from how he does this, and I love the designs just for the characters as well, with that horror anime style to it. And I cannot wait to see what he has planned next since he finally finished the Cat in the Hat analog horror series. We'll have to wait and see what he has planned for the future of his channel. But other than that, guys, that's going to wrap up this review right here. And my next review will hopefully be on the end of Oak Street, which I will try to get to. I still need to find a way to watch it, but I don't know where I can watch it. I can't watch it on Wadfix, and I can't watch it on Movie Downloader right now until, I guess, it gets like leaked on there, like what happened with Spider-Man Brand New Day. And I did do a post before saying that I'll try to maybe like watch some more clips or maybe some reactions of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 and try then doing like an early review on it. Or I might consider actually watching the episodes from Movie Downloader, but we'll see. We won't go that mild just yet, but stick with me if I do happen to find a way. But other than that, guys, I'm going to end this review right here. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys on the flip side. Peace.
You're alone too.
Godzilla's roar, a thunderous call lays the
Simba stands tall, roaring proudly, he answers the call. Godzilla walks across the horizon line. A new king rises.